Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk of the Trinity, where you get to see our beautiful faces once again because, yes, we're on YouTube. You might be hearing these lovely brummy dulcet tones and Dave's Irish accent on Spotify, Google, Amazon, Apple, all of the good and not so good podcast providers. Regrettably, Baz is still unavailable. And like Unai Emery, I am going to say we don't know when his return date is. However, you can wave to him now on the podcast, and he will wave back from the physio room or wherever he is. Still recovering from vertigo, the dizzy heights of getting to second in the league. I'm joined by the summer signing, Dave Martinez Dance Dave, in the engine room here today. He's alongside me and we have an international villain up front in attack for us who's going to supply all the best bits. He's a renowned journalist known for his work on ESPN. He's interviewed the GOAT. Yes, he's interviewed the GOAT. He's also interviewed Lionel Messi. So I'll let you decide who the GOAT is there. I'm probably going to butcher his name, even though he has advised me as how to say it. You may know him as LME. We know him as our friend. It's Luis Miguel Echegaray.
Beautiful, beautifully said. You're an adopted Peruvian.
Oh,
Absolutely fantastic. Well, you did a much better job than when my wife did it the first year. So you're good. You're good.
do you know what? I'm glad I've got that sorted now. We can call each other villains or LME. Louis, we're good from there. How are you doing, my friend? I know it's early in the morning where you are. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, Will. Hey, Dave. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me. An absolute pleasure to talk to more villains. Everything is good here. As you may or may not know, thank you for the lovely intro. I live in New York City, so I'm a little bit behind you guys, but it's 9 a.m. In times of taping, so it's not too bad. I was telling you off taping that I'm married to a teacher, so I get up at 5 a.m. whether I like it or not. So this is nothing for me. So, and anyway, when we talk Villa, I'm up 24/7, so it's all good.
I was just going to say, hello from Dublin, by the way. This is pretty cool. Dublin, Birmingham, and New York all together. But you actually haven't missed any transfer gossip, which is unusual for January. But in the hours that we've been up, nothing is. I mean, Madden's on his way out. We know that, though. Nothing new to report. So, clean slate.
Clean slate. Oh, you're in Dublin, right next to the Troy Parrott Airport, I believe. So that's great.
We're hoping to rename it the Troy Parrott Airport. Thanks for the reference. I have been banging on about how Villa needs to sign Troy Parrott, and Will and Baz be like, who is this lad talking about? Look at the stats. They're terrible over in the Dutch league. Hero here. Hero. Great reference.
I mean, you have been banging on about us re-signing Steve Staunton for the last 3 years that you've been on the podcast. So
Yeah.
when we hear you talk about Troy Parrott as well, there is a bit of trepidation there, though he's banging in the goals, obviously, in the Dutch league and doing very well for the Irish national team.
Oh,
As
Evan
for,
Ferguson, we missed out. I mean, we're looking at Tammy Abraham. Evan Ferguson is some player, guys. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm hijacking. We have a legend here. I'll keep quiet.
we do have a legend here, and Marlon is the big talking point at the moment. The fact that he's going out on loan initially, and then it looks like there's going to be an obligation to buy. So he'll soon be joining Leon Bailey unless Leon Bailey goes elsewhere, because it doesn't look like he's going to be coming back to Aston Villa anytime soon. The other outgoing news, apart from the youngster Finley Munro, who looks to be going to Middlesbrough for 350 to 450k with a good percentage add-on fee, is that there is talk that Evan Gassant could also be shown the door very quickly following his move in the summer. He might be going to Besiktas, which makes you think Tammy Abraham could be returning. He's a Premier League proven striker. Louis, what do you think about the whole Evan Gassand business and the Villa transfer window so far?
Yeah, I mean, look, let me begin with Daniel Mallon for a second. Obviously, slowly but surely, he's become a fan favorite. The productivity that he does, specifically off the bench,
Hmm.
And the work rate that he does. I think every Villa fan, appreciates just how much of the energetic impetus that he puts in when he comes on the pitch. And, we're very thankful for everything that he's done. Reportedly, as you mentioned, Will, he's going to Roma. As it happens by happenstance, he's leaving on the day he literally arrived last season as well. So, I understand, obviously, as I'm looking, obviously, as my platforms as well and talking to you, I understand that there's obviously this little bit of sadness and frustration. He was, as I said, becoming slowly but surely a fan favorite. I will say this. I think specifically in the transfer window, it's very important for Villa fans and really for just any fan of the Premier League, but Villa fans specifically, to not do the usual thing of failing to see the forest for the trees. And what I mean by that is that, yes, we're losing an attacker, and on paper it doesn't look great right now, but I want to see the end result by the end of the month and want to see what we bring back. Because as I have said for a very long time, and I'm not the only one in saying this, is we need another natural number 9. And I am in the agreement of Unai Emery that Malen is not a natural 9. He is a support striker or a sort of internal right winger that comes in to support. And to me, that says that Malen reportedly also wanted more minutes as a specific striker. That's just not who he is for Villa. We saw it every time he played. Like, he doesn't hold the ball like Ollie Watkins. He's more of a runner that comes in running from defenders. So I understand the selling point there. And Malen personally wanted to have more minutes as a natural striker. So to me, I get that. And I get the frustration that nothing is happening. But it will happen because we do need a 9. You mentioned Tammy Abraham. But there's other names as well, just per my sources and regarding the good reporting that's coming from other folks as well. Tammy Abraham is just one of many people on the list. So Malen's exit is, intriguing, slightly disappointing, but I know that things will happen after that. And let's not forget that this is Roberto Olave's first window. We're trying to significantly reduce the age limit here within the squad because we are an old squad. That's why the likes of the Brazilian Alisson is here. That's why Brian Maggio's here. So I want to see what happens and the reaction that Villa does in terms of after Malen's departure.
You just mentioned Maggio there and Alisson. How excited are you about those? Because it's where we are. We're obviously competing well in the Premier League and the Europa League, chance of winning it. I kind of had hoped we'd be making signings that would come in, and okay, Alisson might come in, but I think both are definitely one for the future, and with Maggio, one for not next season, but 3-4 years down the line. When you look at these signings, are you excited? Because I'm not too sure I can get so excited yet when I see how much we have kind of turned over young players, brought them in, and sold them out with hardly playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, Dave, and I totally agree. I think, we want to see, because, here's the other component to your point. In my opinion, are entering the most pivotal transfer window for Aston Villa because of what we're doing right now. We are 6 points away from the top of the Premier League table. I don't care what anybody says. We are in a title race right now. Is that changing in the future? Maybe, maybe not. But right now, we are 6 points away from the top of the table, even on points with Manchester City. We have the Europa League to aim for, the FA Cup, etc. So this is a pivotal window. So to your point, when you see the likes of a 17-year-old Brian Maggio come in and a 19-year-old inverted winger from Gremio that we don't know much about, does it show any kind of excitement? To me, yes and no. Yes, because I think this is the kind of, transfers that we should be making regardless, because we need to, think about the future. But also, I like the fact that this is happening under Olave. I need to remind everybody that Roberto Olave, the sporting director, has a very good relationship with Unai Emery. And the reason why it didn't work out with Monchi or Lange is because he didn't echo exactly what Unai Emery wanted. Aston Villa is not like any other club. It's the ownership and then Unai Emery. And everybody else has to support that. Olave is exactly that. He comes from Real Sociedad, where he literally finds players like these players that we're talking about. Young stars that can hopefully really turn into absolute gems. He did it with David Silva. He did it with Mikel Merino. He did it with Alexander Isak. He rediscovered Martin Odegaard. So to me, that's the kind of mirroring element that I'm seeing with these players coming in. I agree with you. I want immediate results, right? But I will also add the component that I think that we live, and I said this to Luke in the Up to Villa channel, that we're living in a situation right now in the modern game where younger players are being asked to do much more than ever before. I mean, look at Estevao at Chelsea, Nwaneri at Arsenal, and obviously to a larger extent, Lamine Yamal at Barcelona. I'm not saying that that's Alisson or Maggio, but what I am saying is that I think that Unai Emery is going to look at them on the pitch, and he doesn't care about the age at all. If you're ready to produce, you're going to make it happen. And I will say that Unai Emery himself, before the FA Cup game against Tottenham, said, I'm hoping that Alisson can play in this game, meaning to me that Alisson is going to help this season. Maggio, I agree with you. I want to see what happens. But he's a very talented player, scouted greatly in Europe, already 3 international appearances for Luxembourg, played for England's youth team. He's keeping his options open. He is in the mold, these are not my words, but of the technical coaches that have worked with him. He is in the mold of a Romelu Lukaku with much better passing vision. So let's wait and see. I trust the fact that it's Olave doing this as opposed to a Monchi or a Langa, because I think Olave has a much better understanding. But I think Alisson is ready to help this season, and Maggio will see, of course.
And I think it shows, doesn't it, that Unai before has put faith in younger players if he thinks that they're ready, such as that. Alisson's got a squad number as well, something that Maggio doesn't have, which sort of makes you think, yes, he will be involved in the squad, and the comments he made before the Tottenham game. But you only have to look back a year and a half and see what he did with Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers came to us. He didn't seem to be ready. It took him a good few months to really settle into the system, but he was trusted. And now he's arguably England's most exciting player. And when you talk about England starters at the World Cup, obviously Jude Bellingham is one of the names that people love to throw out there. But nowadays, people are saying, well, Morgan Rogers could be getting in ahead of him. And that's testament to what Unai does with these players and the faith that he shows in them. And I think when you talk about what we need in this transfer window, you look at last season and the 3 players that we brought in. Disasi on loan wasn't the most amazing loan signing when he played at right back, but he did a very good job at centre back for us when he played. Marco Asensio, absolutely fantastic. Villa fans fell in love with him. Okay, Rodgers had to move out to the right and he dropped off a little bit there, but Asensio was amazing. And Marcus Rashford, the Villa fans loved him straight from the beginning, and he's now earned a move to Barcelona, and Barcelona are looking to sign Marcus Rashford permanently. If we can have that same conviction in this transfer window as last year, where we moved from 11th to get all the way up to the heady heights of, 5th, 6th at the end of the season, and get so close to that Champions League spot, if Alabe and Emery can bring those sort of players in again, if we could get Asensio back on loan, you can dream. You could bring in a Tammy Abraham or whoever else. Then why shouldn't we be thinking that actually we can catch Arsenal?
Yeah,
we
because
can get above Man City.
Yeah. I mean, Will, I totally agree. I think it's really important to understand one thing. And I've interviewed players that have worked under Unai Emery. I've interviewed Unai Emery myself. I've interviewed, Damia Vidagani. I've interviewed many people, and the reason why all those players that you talked about, Marco Asensio from PSG, who was essentially unwanted, Marcus Rashford, remember, untrainable, somebody that had, and look what happened, right? To your point, goes to Barcelona, Disasi, etc., who's now on the verge of leaving Chelsea. All these players, right? The reason why they all succeed, the reason you mentioned Morgan Rogers, when he was, I remember even Villa fans themselves asking, why are we getting somebody like Morgan Rogers, right? The reason all of these work is 2 words, Unai Emery. And I remember interviewing Arnaud Danjuma back when he was at Villarreal, back when Unai Emery was managing Villarreal, even before Villa was even a mention. And it was in the season when Villarreal just beat Bayern Munich to make it to the semi-finals of the Champions League. And I asked Arnaud Danjuma, I said, what does it feel like to work under Unai Emery? Like, what's he like as a manager? Arnaud Danjuma sat back and he just went, I can't even explain to you how much he does for a player in a day, not even just in a week, in a day. You come back and you have so much information about what you need to do, whether you apply it or not, it's up to you. But what he does for you as a player is unbelievable. We've heard John McGinn talk about it endlessly, right? So Unai Emery is the reason for this. So that's why any player that comes in the transfer window, I just know that if you listen, you will improve. You will improve 100%. Okay? It's just about making sure the type of player that we have. Now, a big part of this conversation that we're talking about is we have to remember that Aston Villa, as much as we have this trajectory and as ambitious as we are financially restrained. Okay? And there's a reason why we're trying to play around financially, economically. There's a reason, unfortunately, why you can go all the way back from Douglas Luiz to why Jacob Ramsey left as well. Like, we are unfortunately in the arms of PSR, which will turn into squad cost ratio next season as well, right? Which actually will make it harder for Villa because, it's a real tricky one. And when external fans say to me, oh, what are you talking about, blah, 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 I always say this. We are, from my perspective, from a football perspective, obviously, we're a much better club than Manchester United right now, right? There's no doubt about it. But we don't have the marketing power of Manchester United. We don't have the history that they have in the 90s when they extended their audience in Southeast Asia. And we don't have that. And as a result, financially, we don't bring in that marketing revenue that other clubs do, even though they do worse than us, just like Tottenham. So we are financially restrained. That's why we have to really be smart about who we bring in. That's why Olave is here. And to your point, if we can find these gems, these Morgan Rogerses, right? Maybe Brian Maggio becomes an absolute talent, which he's meant to be, right? Then now you're thinking of. But ultimately, as long as Unai Emery is here, I'm absolutely ecstatic.
Well, I'll jump in there because my worry, as you've mentioned, squad cost ratio, is that Aston Villa are going to continually be a little bit hamstrung or in a straitjacket. And is there a point that Unai Emery just thinks, I really just want to be able to go to a club where I can sign the players I want to in the league? No. Okay, tell me why.
I'll tell you why. Because, and I'll go back to what I said, there is a significant relationship, a very specific, detailed relationship with Aston Villa and Unai Emery that doesn't exist almost anywhere. In fact, what Nassef Sawiris is, as soon as he persuaded Unai Emery to come to Villa, and remember, before Unai Emery came to Villa, Newcastle United, freshly bought by Saudi Arabia, with all the money in the world at that time, did everything they could to bring Unai Emery, and Unai Emery said no. And there's reasons for it. Because Unai Emery enters a club and he wants to make sure that he has a complete vision that is supported. Completely. And I don't just mean that figuratively, I mean that literally. So I go back. You have the ownership, which obviously includes Wes Edens and Nassef Sawiris. After them, it's Unai Emery. And even Unai Emery's below the ownership, we are very lucky to have, very rich owners, investment banking from the US. Like, it's not really a secret, like so many clubs have it, right? But what's different with Villa is that Wes Edens and Nassef Sawiris are smart enough to say, I know what I don't know. That's why I want Unai Emery to be in charge, and that's why right under him is Damir Vidagani, Olave, his staff. That doesn't exist almost anywhere. The reason why it's taken Mikel Arteta so long to get to this point that hopefully he's going to get something is because now he has a support system that completely enables him to do it, right? Sawiris wants Unai Emery to have the same relationship with Villa, the same way that Sir Alex Ferguson had with United, and the same way that Arsene Wenger had with Arsenal. And that's why, when Ruben Amorim left United, and everybody said, oh, Unai Emery will love this. It's like, you don't know the context of this for so many reasons. But the most important factor is because Unai Emery has the keys to the kingdom at Villa. Real Union, his beloved childhood club, right? Part of Villa, it's that intricately connected. And that's why it doesn't matter what happens. I mean, I can't, Obviously, we can't ever predict the exact situation or what's going to happen in the future. But if Unai Emery leaves Villa in the future, it will be because there will be a disenchantment and a breakage in this particular relationship that I'm talking about.
It makes complete sense. And I think that Villa fans, they realise, don't they, that Emery has got it exactly how he wants it running from that football side of things, that he has the autonomy. He's able to have Alabe or whoever say, we've got these players, what do you think? We'll get who you want us to get. Whereas obviously the disconnect came in with Monchi, unfortunately, and the summer wasn't exactly how we wanted it to pan out to be. If Unai Emery is able to keep this infrastructure in place, add to it, add these young players, develop the young players we've got as well, because we've got some great youngsters in our system like Rory McGrath.
Yeah, which is an Olabe. Sorry to interrupt, Wilbur, but
okay.
which is it's an Olabe obsession too, to grow and encourage the local community. I mean, there is no better example than Real Sociedad. I've interviewed Olabe before back at Sociedad, and like this is a massive passion of his to like, regenerate and strengthen the academy, because the moment you create superstar talents from your own backyard, that's when you've hit the jackpot. So, yes, I just wanted to add that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And I think that the thing about that is as well that when you hit like Morgan Rogers, okay, he didn't come directly from our own backyard, but he's originally from Hales Owen, which is just down the road. And because of that, he's become a superstar. He's become a player that the fans engage with. You have the little uns running around in the back garden pretending to be Morgan Rogers, and there's no higher praise than that. The same with Grealish. We've seen a lot of young players sit on the bench recently. We know why that is, but it's still exciting to see when you see TJ Carroll on the bench, a young up and coming centre half. Getting back to what I was saying, with those players, with the players that are coming in like Maggio, Allison, and the younger players that we've got in the first team squad, where can Emery take this for us? Do you think that we can win the league and win European trophies under Unai Emery, Louis?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I think we need to like also remove the inferior complex that we have as Villa fans. Like, why not? Like, why not? I mean, Leicester City was obviously a magical thing, but this is a totally different thing. This is a project in the making. I mean, look, I think the biggest obstacle actually is how we handle things financially, not even on the football pitch. I think it's more about making sure that we are as ambitious on the pitch as we are smart off it. And, nobody wanted to see Jacob Ramsey leave. And actually, I think it's a reason why we started so badly this season, because the squad was very sort of shook up by that situation. Nobody wanted to see JJ leave. And JJ himself probably didn't want to leave, but these are the rules. And, it's the nature of the beast in the Premier League. I think, like, financially speaking, if we're able to have a really good support system financially, I have no doubt from the football perspective. Why not? I want to even like bring back the days when Unai Emery would manage Valencia and the things that he would do with that club. They had no business getting European football. Absolutely none. And he did that. At PSG, he won everything but the Champions League. At Arsenal, the old broken record that Arsenal fans love to talk about, how Unai Emery didn't do anything. Unai Emery took over Arsene Wenger, not a manager, but an institution of Arsenal. It's so insanely difficult to take over somebody like that in your first season in England, when you didn't even speak English, with not the right support system that you have. And even despite of all of that, they came fifth, one place above Arsene Wenger's last season, and a Europa League final. Imagine what would have happened. Thierry Henry said it himself. Imagine what would have happened if they had a little bit more patience. So to answer your question is, we have all the tools to do those things. He had two objectives in his first press conference, right? Earn Champions League, achieved, right? Hopefully achieve this season, and win a trophy. We haven't done that in 30 years. I think that will be hopefully something that happens this season. And then as we continue to build, why not? Why can't we be a team that also competes for the Premier League title. I'm not saying it's going to happen this season. I'm saying that we have the capability of doing it.
I think the great thing there as well is that it feels like a realistic ambition as well at the moment that we can go and win trophies. I think we can win the league. I think we could win it this season with the right people coming in. We potentially
Why
don't
not?
even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Six points from the top of the table, Will. Like we're not talking, it's
I
6 points
agree.
away from the top of the table. I mean, I think that draw had Arsenal beaten Liverpool, I would have said, okay, now it's harder. But 6 points is two matches, and we've already played Arsenal twice. Like there is a lot of football to be played here, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just think like this inferiority complex of anybody that says, "Oh, I don't know." Why not? Why not? 6 points away, absolutely doable.
Definitely. And after the start to the season that we had as well, which was atrocious, let's be completely honest, it
Yeah, it was
wasn't great
terrible.
at all. He's managed to turn it round. And for me, the one thing that I pinpoint the turning round of the season to is a few factors. I think that Pau Torres coming back into the team helped massively. Dave knows I absolutely love Pau Torres. I dream about him. I get him into every single podcast. Playing that, going back to that higher defensive line with him and Concert in there, Ian Martson coming in, he complements Pau Torres so well. But the one thing that really stands out, and it's where I worry a little bit about Marlon leaving, but at the same time I don't because he doesn't play an awful lot. We seem to have shifted back a little bit to the tactics that Unai used in the first season, where it was more that 4-2-2-2 rather than the 4-2-3-1 or the 3-2-5. And that's why I personally, with the limited football experience that I have, feel that we're starting to build momentum and we'll be able to carry this through. You get the right people in, he gets them into the squad, you can push on. And at the end of the season, don't be surprised if we've got a statue for Unai outside the whole 10 because he's won us a competition. What do you both think clicked since the start of the season? After that poor start, going into Sunderland away, which was a difficult game, but coming out of it with renewed confidence and a point after that Matty Cash screamer. What changed? What improved? Because improved is a better word. You know, you improve something on purpose. You change for change's sake, but we've improved.
I'll go first because Luis will have the better answer than me. So I'll just get mine out of the way. I think there was after that ropey start. I think there was some real examples of players stepping up and John McGinn in that captain's armband. He just grew and he just led. Buendia showed this unbelievable attitude where he said, "No, I'm not going to. I want to stay here. I want to be here," and he's proved his worth. Matty Cash, I think every single year people would be like, "Oh, we need to upgrade on right back." Matty Cash has been terrific, absolutely terrific, and I think maybe the people we didn't normally look at, we'd look to an Ollie Watkins or a Morgan Rogers who started pretty poorly, but it was these others, with McGinn doing the captain's job, and these other people stepping up gave us that little bit of momentum and allowed the other players to play into their form. I'm now going to hand over to our expert, Luis. What do you think our improvements this season after the poor start have been down to?
No, Dave, I think you hit some really important points, and I totally agree. I think it's very important to remember the consistency, regardless of that time, but remembering the consistency of Matty Cash, who was absolutely fantastic during the time. Emiliano Buendia's resurgence, the fact that we really saw him just leaving, just the injury, Bayer Leverkusen loan, whatever, and so I think that through those kind of individual performances, the cohesion within the roster, got bigger and bigger and bigger. In my opinion, the reason why I think we finally got going is because I think it's important to remember that our team under Unai Emery, our squad, our philosophy, our identity is very much set on rhythm, and it's very much set on a symphony. We're very much like a classical piece of music where the moments are different, not just in 90 minutes, but during the entire season. And I think that sometimes, especially also in games, it takes a little bit of time for the players to understand what Villa are trying to do. That's why I always remember saying, Aston Villa is very much like a university, because like Unai Emery is kind of like a professor, and he's trying to teach you a course, and you're not going to learn everything on the first day of class. It's going to take you a little bit of time. But once you get it, then it becomes much easier. That's why I think we saw that tremendous run, because there's such a cohesion. And then I'll go back to something that John McGinn said recently, which is, echoing a video that I did a few weeks ago, which is, you may think you know what you're getting with Villa when you're playing them, but then the fluidity, because Will, you were talking about formations, the fluidity of formations and strategy in 90 minutes changes so drastically. Because I think, there's Pep Guardiola, and then to me, in terms of in-game decision making, Unai Emery is like one of the best anywhere. He reformats what he wants to do based on what he sees. We saw it over and over again. The Chelsea game, the game against West Ham, to your beloved Pau Torres, who basically was acting like a midfielder, like leading up to the game, right? There are so many examples of how it takes time for this piece of classical music to just get going. And I think that's what happened at the beginning. In addition to what I said, I think, look, what was going on in the summer transfer window really impacted the players. Like, seeing Jacob Ramsey leave, like, Rashford was obviously not coming back, Asensio either. And then Dibu Martinez, who was like, ready to go to Manchester United. We didn't know if we had a number one keeper for a little bit there. So I think that impacts players, because they are human beings after all. But once they go back into the, Aston Villa's Unai versity, right? I think that what happened there is like players began to really understand what to do. It's just I'll go back to something you said at the beginning, Will, about like, some things that you worry a little bit. Boubacar Kamara's absence is significant. I'm so happy that it's only 2 to 3 weeks, reportedly, originally reported by Matt Mayer at the Express and Star. It could have been months, because I was very worried that, he's got an ongoing issue with his knee. I thought, oh my God, he's out. And because also added to the fact that Amadou Onana is not available as well. So, a lot of what works is because of Boubacar Kamara, who, in my opinion, is Villa's most important player. He is our Claude Makelele. He is an absolute wall, but he's also a creator. And I think that I'm happy that Bogart is playing well, and when Onana comes back, but Kamara is an absolute underrated gem in world football, and we'll miss him. So I want to see how we do there, like how we protect that midfield, because that core, protecting that back four, especially because our back line push up so much, that player, that defensive midfielder, that 6 is very, very important. So to me, I'm looking to see that's why there was perhaps some interest in Conor Gallagher, although my sources will tell me that there was never an official offer for him. But there is, obviously there's a need to solidify that midfield. But all in all, I think that everything is in plan to keep going. We have a very good opportunity to get 3 points against Everton on Sunday. The Europa League returns, etc., etc. But it's very important to get a 9. That's my priority for this transfer window. We need a 9 to compete with Ollie Watkins and to alleviate the pressure of Ollie Watkins. And Malen is not a 9. And that's Unai Emery's point. And that's why Unai Emery was like, look, Daniel, I think you're amazing. You've done some great stuff for us, but you're not a natural 9. If you want more minutes as a natural 9, Villa is not the place for you. And that's why he's left. So hopefully that we'll get somebody this month to get another 9, and then I'll be happier. And look, Evan Gesant, I'm going to tell you something. I think we need to be patient with him, because he does have the goods. He's just acclimating himself to the Premier League. I know there's a lot of frustrations with Evan Gesant, but my hope is that AFCON has given him a new sense of confidence, and he's going to help. But just be patient, because every now and again we get frustrated with a player without really just having a little bit of patience for them.
And I think that could be true of Yuri Tielemans, couldn't it? When he first joined the Villa,
Yeah.
fans weren't happy with him. They thought he was overweight. They didn't think he was fit enough. Yet,
I made a post, Will. I made a post saying, you know what, Yuri Tillemans, I think you need to get your act together because you might not be a villain much longer. And now look at him. He is, in my opinion, one of the best ever midfielders the game Villa has ever had in the Premier League. Like, it's ridiculous.
his footballing IQ is incredible. It's up there with the likes of Paul Merson, Gareth Barry for central midfielders that I've seen, if not
100%.
better.
100. Yeah.
And it took him time, is my point now. His first game in, they put him on the left of midfield against Fulham. He got an assist from an own goal. He's only grown from there. It's the same with Ian Martson. Ian Martson, I'm one of those fans who thinks that he should be in ahead of Luka Din at the moment. As good as Luka Din is, I think that Martin offers more. Last season, when we had that run of 10 games where we went unbeaten or we won most of them, Martin was the left back who played a lot. So the point that you make about Gassand is a very good one. He's been thrown into it a lot sooner than Tielemans or Martin ever were. It was 6 months before they were playing regularly. So hopefully, and when he's
And I
playing
think
in,
Unai Emery will. I think Unai Emery is actually still trying to figure out what his best position is on the
yeah,
pitch. Like we've seen him actually across the front line. We've seen him as a nine. We've seen him off the right. We saw him on the left one time, which, by the way, sometimes he plays for the Ivory Coast. So I think Unai Emery himself is trying to figure out where to put him. I understand the frustration. I've seen it. I get it. But the Europa League is a very important tournament for him because I think that's where it gives him a lot of confidence. But let's just be patient with him a little bit. I think he will come good.
and whilst
And
he might not, oh, sorry, Dave.
no, you're grand. He might just come back with a bit more confidence, as you've said now. So
Yes,
actually, the trip to AFCON might be the best thing for him.
100%. 100%. There is something amazing that happens when you play for your country, you do well, and he did. That gives you that sort of rejuvenated sense of confidence for your club.
So at the weekend, it's first goal scorer Evan Gassand, 3-4 nil win for Aston Villa. You heard it here first.
Well, I
You heard
hope
it here
not, because
first.
that would mean that it's an 87th minute goal, right? Like I don't see Evan Gassan starting in this one, but I do wish him to score, though. That would be great for him.
Well, he might not be any of our player of the season so far. And we still do have a lot of time left for the rest of the season. Somebody could come in this transfer window and increase things even more than we'd expected. At this current moment in time, yeah, I'm going to be that guy. I've mentioned him already. For me, the return of Pau. I would have him as one of my players of the season, along with Boubacar Kamara. Boubacar Kamara, absolutely fantastic. He's a Rolls Royce in that central midfield, and I don't think other fans realise just how good he is. He could play for any other elite team apart from Aston Villa, because we are obviously the elitist. Who are you both thinking at the moment? If you had to vote now for your Villa player of the season, who would you be? Whose name would you be writing down?
Go ahead, Dave.
Um,
You can't
we're
say
only half.
Emi Martinez. No, not Emi
No, not this year.
Martinez.
First year. I'm not saying any Martinez. Now we're only halfway through. I mean, I am going from again. Like Morgan Rogers has been exceptional of late, but it was a very slow start. I'm going from again for his leadership qualities. He's done so much. I mean, I really, if there was any ever little doubt in the back of my mind, and again, Everton put in a cheeky bid, probably for no other reason than to unsettle us a bit, maybe at the start of the season. He's crucial, and just to be there. And back in the day, I didn't know about taking the captain's armband off Tyrone Mings because I loved Mings, but I can absolutely see it now. And he led us out of that wobble into our amazing winning streak. So at the moment, for me, it's John McGinn. But there's still time to. I mean, Morgan Rogers has been excellent the last few couple of months, really. So we'll see. There's more time, but so far, McGinn.
Yeah, I was just going to end to what you just ended there with, Dave. I think it's Morgan Rogers. I think there's a shout to say about many players, like you mentioned. It's great to see Pau Torres back. We've waxed lyrical about Boubacar Kamara, absolutely. Yuri Tillemans. Everybody's contributing in one way or another. John McGinn, in my opinion, will go down as one of Aston Villa's greatest ever captains, just because, like, remember, he was there in the championship with us trying to make us fight back. And, I just love everything about him. And Emiliano Buendia, I think, deserves a mention just because of, like, the resiliency and him coming back and scoring pivotal goals, specifically that one against Arsenal. But when all is said and done, when you think about just, what this season so far has meant, it's been about explosive moments, right? Sort of a proverbial firework, so to speak. A club that continues to rise and compete at the top three of the table right now. And if we're to achieve that, you mentioned it earlier, Will, like we're talking about the most talked about player for the England national team right now. It has to be Morgan Rogers. That goal against Manchester United was just basically like playing, FIFA or Pro Evolution. It was just one of those things that you just don't. And, he is, and I've said this before, he reminds me of what Ronaldo Fenomeno used to do at Barcelona, in his before he moved to Inter. There are so many things that he does that nobody in the Premier League does. And on his day, he is unstoppable. And I think that he's given us enough highlights so far to, at this moment, call for me to be the player of the season. But, the list is deep, and that speaks a lot to what Villa are doing this season, I think.
I completely agree. Morgan Rogers has been fantastic. When you see what he can do carrying a football, he's probably the best ball carrier that we've had for years. I know Grealish was amazing, but and he had that strength that people didn't really realise apart from when they saw his calves up close. Whereas with Morgan Rogers, he's just got that upper body strength. Last season he destroyed Partey and Rice, didn't he? And we were chatting to Luke at the UTV podcast on our last show, and I asked the question: do we think that Morgan Rogers could win the Player of the Year in England for the Premier League? And he said it could happen, but he went more with the Declan Rice because of the form that he's in for Arsenal. Do you think that Morgan Rogers could be lifting that trophy, or do you think he's more settled and destined for maybe a young Player of the Year, or do you think it's a bit too soon to say?
No, I think I agree with Luke, because I think if Arsenal win the Premier League title, you have to give it to Declan Rice, or it's just an incredible achievement. So it really depends on what happens at the end of the season. I think Morgan Rogers, obviously, if he continues, like, he will be an absolute finalist for it. But I think it really all depends on who wins the Premier League. And if Arsenal indeed finally end up doing what they're doing, and Declan Rice obviously has been a pivotal factor, and I think he's a contender for it for sure. But there's still a lot of football to be played, so we just got to keep waiting and see. But just the fact that we're having a conversation about an Aston Villa player being maybe a finalist for Player of the Year, I think speaks to the volumes of the things that we're trying to do here.
I think as well, when we do win the Premier League, we'll probably find anyway that the FA turn around and still give it to Declan Rice or to Gabriel for the season that they.
It doesn't matter. He'll have the most important piece of silverware anywhere. So.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you mentioned there as well Ronaldo and the comparisons, and you've obviously sat down with a lot of sporting legends. As we said at the start in the introduction, you've sat down with the GOAT, Unai Emery. A new name for him, the GOAT. There we go. You've sat down with Leo Messi as well, which must be amazing experiences. But if you could sit down with your favourite ever villain, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a player, it could be a manager, it could be a fan. It's entirely up to you. You could have 60 minutes just to chat with them, either in a pub, in a pub in the middle of Birmingham, sitting in Times Square, chewing the breeze about.
Not Times Square.
Lower Manhattan, Upper Manhattan.
Any New Yorker will tell you that, like, the Times Square is like, having lunch at the Bull Ring. Like, we don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, get away, find somewhere else.
Walking through Central Park on a nice autumn day.
Perfect.
There you go. Or you could be sat having a Guinness in Dublin.
Yeah.
Which villain is it that you want to sit down for that hour and just talk all things Aston Villa, whether it's recorded or not, just to have that moment with them and go, do you know what? That was a fantastic time.
Wow, what a great question. Because, the question is sort of multi-paralleled, right? Because one side is like, who's my favorite villain, right? And when I was a kid, when I first immigrated to England from Peru and, Villa came into my life, Dwight York became my hero eventually and stuff, right? So, but I don't think I would choose him as like if I could pick anybody to talk to because there's others like Paul McGrath to me would be amazing just to tell me about his stories. There's Andy Townsend, who I think is probably a really good storyteller. But I have to say, actually, when I think back, I have two. One of them is Savo Milosevic, because reportedly Savo Milosevic in the dressing room was an absolute legend, and like just the stories and everything that he did, that team, everything that he did, his rise, he would be one of them. But the main one to me is the one now, which is Dibu Martinez. I would love to sit down with him and talk to him because we share many things. Similarly, he came to England when he was 18. I went there when I was 11, 12. He had to be away from his family, all that stuff, the trials and tribulations, the fact that he's won the World Cup and, all his stories. He's also very personable and, whatever. I'd love to talk to him about just the overall concept of what it's like, his career. And of course, like feeling unwanted at Arsenal and then eventually coming to Villa and doing whatever. But I mean, listen, the list goes on, man. The list absolutely goes on. There's so many players. Norberto Solano, for example, but I did talk to him already, just not specifically about Villa. There's so many players. I mean, Ashley Young, back when he was, another one that, but I think probably somebody like, Savo or Dibu Martinez would be interesting for sure.
Have to say, I did not expect Savo Milosevic to be an answer there. DB
Yeah, he was
Martinez.
kind of, it's because, that was when I was like at I mean, I've always been passionate about the Villa. It's my number one
Mhm.
thing, right? But, when you're a kid and you're a
Yeah.
teenager and you see these people, your heroes, Savo to me, I don't know, he just spoke to me for some reason. I guess it's because he was a left-footed striker and I was a left-footed winger. So, there you go.
Well, the goals he scored as well, the hat trick against Coventry at home. Who can
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
the
They were that was
missile
his
at
first
Wembley?
goals, weren't they? That was like after an age. It was December. I remember I was my football team at the Christmas party that day. He hadn't scored until the hat trick at Highfield Road. Yeah, I mean, is that a thing? I mean, I remember people derided him and called him Missilosevic and things like that. Was that all? Looking back, is that all unfair? Is that just kind of tabloid
Definitely
nonsense?
unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah, very unfair. Like he scored some very important goals, including League Cup final. He also he holds the record for most left-footed goals in the Premier League season for Villa. Like he did a lot for Villa, but it was more because he put himself in really good situations on the pitch and he just didn't put them away. Like but he was a very, very good character. I mean, he's one of those players that, part of that last time we ever won anything, it's very important to remember those kind of players. I mean, I'm lucky enough to say that I've interviewed, Juan Pablo Angel, Petrov, players that we really regard super high. You mentioned Unai Emery. I've already interviewed him. I'd do anything to talk to him again, just because he's like an encyclopedia of football. But managers too, like Brian Little and John Gregory, it'd be great to have a sit down with them as well. There's just so many, right? So many amazing names that have carried this wonderful club through the years.
Oh, definitely. And when you look at more so, when you look at names from when Dean Smith onwards has brought the
Mm.
team back up, you look at people where like Martin O'Neill and a lot of Villa fans around my age will be thinking that that was the best that they ever saw, the Villa, and we weren't even really that close to achieving the Premier League or anything else apart from the League Cup really under O'Neill. When you compare him to what Unai Emery is doing now and how fantastic he is.
Yeah, I mean, look, the game is different now, right? But
Oh
I've
yeah,
said that I have said this before. I mean, I remember vividly being top of the table on Christmas Day in 1998 and the John Gregory. I remember the Martin O'Neill days of how we just kept killing it and we were really pushing for so many amazing things. Ron Atkinson, of course, when we came second in the Premier League season debut. I remember all of that. There is no better manager that has made Villa into what they are than Unai Emery in the Premier League era. In the Premier League era, Unai Emery to me has done something that no other manager has done. I will always be thankful to Dean Smith for returning us to the Premier League, and obviously all those other managers that we talked about. But Unai Emery, what he has done with this club is just unbelievable and unprecedented in the Premier League era.
And I'll be very thankful to Steven Gerrard for completely losing it when he did at the
Yeah.
perfect time for Unai Emery to come in. Because imagine he had us at eighth for that season and we missed out
Yeah.
in Emery, and
Well,
so
the best thing Steven Gerrard ever did for us was go to Boubacar Kamara's house and tell us to come. So I'll thank him for that. That's about it.
I'm thankful to Fulham. They played massive parts in the Aston Villa
Yeah,
history
I remember that
recently.
game. God, that was dreary. That was a terrible game. My God.
I mean, they've helped with a lot of improvements with ownership and also managers as
could you
well.
imagine Tony Jean, the Premier League? Sorry, we won't go off on tangents and get the
No,
solicitors' letters, but oh wow.
I, I mean, you've just mentioned that left peg, not your left peg and how great that was on the left wing, but you've mentioned the left peg of Savo Milosevic. And one of the questions I'd sent through to you was if you could build a player from past and present Villa players, and in their prime doesn't have had to have been at the stands of Villa Park. It could be
Hmm.
Grealish at Man City, for example. Who would you use for each of the following character traits or physical traits? And I can go through them one by one if you want me to, unless
Yeah,
you've got
no,
them
let's
written
do
down
it.
already.
Yeah, no, let's do it. Yeah.
So, whose right foot are you picking to create this ultimate villain?
Norberto Solano. Norberto
Okay.
Solano's right foot was absolutely magical. Like, the first Peruvian that came to the Premier League. That's why I'll always have a little tiny soft spot for Newcastle United because thanks to them, Solano came and Solano's partnership with Alan Shearer at that time. Solano's right foot in his day, that goal against Tottenham for Villa. Oh my God, any young fan, I really implore you to just go on YouTube and check it out. Solano for me, for right foot, 100%.
You can't argue with that. Left foot? Are we going with Savo? Are we sticking with Savo?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Savo. I like that record that I said. Like he scored the most left-footed goals for Villa in a single season. I think he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And part of a League Cup winning team, Savo for sure for left foot. Yeah.
I think Dave's waiting for me to ask him this on one of the upcoming podcasts because he's there thinking, I've got Steve Staunton, I've got Andy
Oh, rah.
Townsend.
Oh, I love Andy Townsend. I love Andy Townsend. Like such a leader in '96 when we won the Coca-Cola Cup as well. Love him as well. Yeah,
he,
absolutely.
he talks so well about the Villa. My mum loved him as well, but for different reasons. I won't go into those. Tackling. Whose tackling skills are you bringing in?
The Viking, Olaf Melberg. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we Villa have been very lucky to have some ridiculously good defenders. I mean, Hugo Ehioch is one of them, of course. Paul McGrath, God, right? But to me, Olaf Melberg, just because it wasn't that he was a good tackler, is that he did it every single game. He was like putting his foot in, and that partly has to say a lot for like allowing any attacker to go past anybody. But Olaf Melberg to me remains one of the best centre backs that Villa have ever had, I think.
And you've hit the nail on the head, really. Haven't you? We've been so lucky with the centre backs that we've had, such as Melberg, such as Larson as
Yeah,
well. Southgate, Egiog, the
yeah.
current crop that we've got as Riconsa. Passing ability. Whose passing ability are you taking for this ultimate villain?
Well, that's a tough one because obviously we could say players for Aston Villa that hold the record for most assists in the Premier League, right? Like, which funnily enough, Gabby Agbonlahor is pretty high up there. But Gareth Barry obviously is one of them who I think it's 38 assists for he was so good at making the difficult things made look so simple. But I got to go with Ashley Young, specifically 2007, 2008's Ashley Young. His passing ability, when he would like just cut inside and just do those crosses and everything that he would do from that wing. I mean, I think Fabregas won in assists that season. Ashley Young came second. Like that's how good he was. So I would say Ashley Young for me.
Yeah, Ashley Young was such a great player for us. He scored my favourite ever Villa goal, and that
Yeah.
was the second one that he scored against the Blues in the 5-1 win. The way he
Oh,
dropped his shoulder,
so
sent
good.
two of them to Witton Lane fish and chip shop, and then had the audacity to miss and then score. It was amazing. That was his dribbling, but whose dribbling are you bringing in to the team?
Ooh, dribbling. I mean, you got to mention Jack Grealish, obviously. Villa's Jack Grealish. Pep
Mm,
Guardiola absolutely killed Jack Grealish.
yeah.
Villa's Jack Grealish. He would do some things that were just so mesmerizing, and you knew they were coming because obviously he waits for you to go inside, and then he goes past you. So I would say Jack Grealish probably would be up there. I think he's probably in terms of dribbling in his heyday. Woo, coming from that left side, amazing.
And I imagine that when we're stood in 6 months' time outside Villa Park with the Unai Emery statue holding the FA Cup, and it's us two, it's Baz, it's you, Louis, and it's Luke as well, and we're having a beer. We might be going, actually, do you know what? Morgan Rogers might have been a better shout for
Yeah,
his.
he's up there. He's absolutely up there. You mentioned about the ball carrying, and I've made comparisons with him. Absolutely. Morgan Rogers is up there as well. I'll also say Ian Taylor as well, like the way that he carried the ball. And then, oh, there's one more actually. I mean, he was mainly known for his strike partnership, but like he's worth a mention. Again, if you're a young fan, go on YouTube. But Dalian Atkinson's goal against Wimbledon was the pure example of,
Yeah.
of genius dribbling and finishing. So there's too many, man. We're so lucky.
There's a lot. There's a lot. And the great thing about Grealish as well, the player that you picked there, is that he was not only a villain, a fan, he was a leader,
Yeah.
which again helps me segue onto leadership skills.
Um, I would say it's okay. He was a captain for a very short time, but what Paul McGrath represented at the back and what he did for the club is one of them. But in second place, to me, is Stilian Petrov, specifically 2009. Like he led that club to sixth, a League Cup final, just an absolute leader in that midfield. I would hear stories about what he was like in the dressing room as well. But I'm going to go with Dave here from, when he said about his favorite player of the season. I think when we go back in time, we will consider John McGinn to be one of the best ever captains Villa's ever had. Um, just because of his trajectory. We bought him for like 20p, and he came to Villa. And not only did he help us in the Premier League, but he has been here in the toughest of times when we were literally like 15th in the championship. And then you fast forward and he's scoring an absolute dreamer against PSG, his leadership materials, just everything about him. He doesn't have an ego. He doesn't take himself too seriously off the pitch, and on the pitch, he is an absolute warrior. We are so lucky to have John McGinn as a captain, and I wish him all the best at the World Cup, especially against Brazil. He's going to melt because they're going to play Brazil in Miami. But aside from that, I just think he will go down as one of my favorite captains ever, I think.
I mean, he has to go down as one of our greatest signings ever. I mean, it was just under 3 million.
Ridiculous.
I know Nobby Solano was really good value, was at 1.5 million. But again, for
But the
what
fact
he's
that McGinn did it like only a few years ago really says a lot.
in this day and age, and where he's brought us now, it's an unbelievable signing, and what he's done for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Baz will be replaying that on Luke because he absolutely loves John McGinn. The last one, I appreciate that we've had a lot of your time here and for you chatting to us. The last skill, probably the most important that we're looking for in the transfer window at the moment. So if we could harness this from somewhere, is shooting. Whose shooting boots are you bringing back to Villa Park?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I told you that my childhood hero was Dwight York. He was originally a winger, got turned into a striker. And there's a reason why United bought him, and the reason why I remember crying when he left Villa. God, he was so good. And I mean, please YouTube his Panenka against David Seaman. It was just like absolutely amazing. I
Beautiful.
just, I love the swagger of his finishing, which is something I think that we need. Ollie Watkins, Premier League's all-time scorer for Villa, but sometimes I want him to have more swagger, right? Like, Dwight York had that. But then like if you're talking about finding a player from the past and putting him right now, somebody that we need like right now is Christian Benteke.
I was
Like
thinking that.
if we could just have Christian Benteke, like prime Christian Benteke right now, oh my goodness, because he offers something totally different to what we need. His aerial ability, his finishing, his confidence, his ability to hold the ball, play people in. Benteke in his prime for Villa was absolute magic. I would have him. And then, shadily, not shadily, but sneakily, I would throw in Juan Pablo Angel as well, just because, as a South American, I like to see, some of the goals that he scored as well as one. But Benteke right now in this team, whoo, be amazing.
And both of those players would be perfect for Unai Emery because they took that little bit of time, didn't they, to
Yeah,
settle into the
yeah.
Midlands, into the club before firing on all cylinders. Juan Pablo Angel, of course, scoring some absolute bangers for us.
Angel would
He's
do well under Emery now. I mean, his ball carrying
Yeah,
abilities were excellent as well, and
yeah,
passing him on, and he could finish. Yep, has it all there.
But the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
is, he'd jump up for the ball and he'd stay in the air for about 2 or 3 minutes, hanging there,
yeah,
waiting for a cross to come
yeah.
in before he scored.
And
You
his
know,
flowing black hair with his headband, like we need a little bit of that. I think it'd be great.
so we need some South American flair to come in. Hopefully, Allison will deliver that for us. And
Listen. I have high hopes for Allison. I'm going to tell you that. I've done I knew a little bit of his work at Gremio. Obviously, it's very early, and he only debuted for Gremio like previous season, and he's young. But when you put him under the guidance of somebody like Unai Emery, there's something to be said about the kind of player that can. And I love inverted, left-footed right wingers. Um, I was never that. I was always a more like direct one, but I love those inverted wingers that, your Arjen Robben types, right? Like I think Allison is not that, but he has a lot of traits that Morgan Rogers has, and funnily enough, he looks just like him as well. But there is something I'm excited to see what Unai Emery does with Allison. I think he's going to help.
but yeah, it will be great to see if he can achieve everything that we want him to for the club and then personally for the country or for England and for himself over the summer. I have to say, thank you so much for being on our episode today. It has been a joy speaking to you, hearing how passionate you are about the Villa, following you on social media without that sounding stalkerish. It's lovely to see what you write. And if you don't already follow Louise, make sure that you do. Do you want to give out your Instagram or social media so that people
Yeah,
can
no, for
follow
sure. It's
you?
been an absolute pleasure, boys. Thank you so much. I love this club so much. I recently wrote something on Substack about my story of why Villa chose me and my story and everything. So Substack is one where people can follow me. It's LME's AVFC. Just lots of Villa content there, columns, articles, live videos, reports. I'm also, like you said, on Instagram, which is Luis M. Echegaray. I know it's a long one, but if you start the first few letters, you'll find me straight away. And then, yeah, I'm growing my YouTube like you boys as well. So it's LME TV as well. So feel free to join me in all of that stuff. But I appreciate this. It's always great to talk to the Villa. I'm always impassioned to hear Villa fans create content. I salute you and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, and I haven't said too much, but I'm just so Star Trek. I'm just really interested in what you gotta say. I love your social media. It's in these days, not to go off on a tangent, I don't go on it as much for reasons, but when I see yours, it's just so good. It's just so positive, so much energy, so insightful. Thank you. Thank you. It's
Oh
great.
no, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'm just a big believer that we can have conversations about the game, we can have analysis, but I also like to be optimistic about things because there are so many more important things in life that sometimes we forget that Aston Villa is a refuge for us. It's not just something that we. So to me, it's very important to keep the glass half full because God knows that there are more important things in life to worry about.
Definitely. I mean, I'm sure the same as Dave would say. I could sit here talking, listening to you all day. Unfortunately, it seems to have flown by like a New York minute. It has been, it has been an education coming to the Universary. And the Universary, of course, is the place where we create classical music at Villa Park. And whilst there may not be a Gallagher joining us this transfer window, I'm sure that there will be some headbanging moments still before that final whistle on the final day. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you want to. Listen back, follow us on Twitter. You're more than welcome to interact. We love interacting with you guys and hearing your opinions. No opinion is wrong. You know, football is a place where you can be yourself and we can have fun and we can talk about just how great our team is. Thank you again for joining us today, Louis. And I think it's only right that we sign off with the usual. Cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.
Thanks, Lewis.
Up the Villa.